What is something that you learned from your father that's outside of politics, outside of business, just
Yeah.
purely on a human level?
I think whatever you do in the world, be myopically focused on it, right? And that probably goes back to what we were talking about with business. You know, everything I had ever seen him accomplish, when it was the residential buildings, he was myopically focused on the residential buildings, building Trump Tower, right? And he just, it would be the only thing that was in his mind. When he got to the golf courses, he loved doing the golf courses, and me and him were myopically focused on it. It's all we thought about. It's all we did. It was literally occupied 95% of this. Same thing with The Apprentice. Like when I was The Apprentice, just everything was ratings. It was the cast. It was the filming. But nothing else came in the way. He was always incredibly focused. When politics came around, his only focus was politics. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And every single thing that he did, he turned to gold, right? And I think when somebody becomes myopically focused on their passion, whatever that might be, and for whatever reason they're trying to do it, I think it's awfully hard to beat them. I think kind of the weekend warriors are very easy to beat, and the people who are lazy, the people who show up at work at 10:30 in the morning and go home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they don't stand a chance against that person who's driven and will go through every single wall in order to get to their objective.
But there's no denying that people like that exist. Do you think that they're just a product of their environment where being lazy is totally fine? There's no real push to be exceptional at anything?
Sure.
Or do you think that, they're making the active choice and they're just like, it's nobody's fault but their own? For example, we have a question we ask on this podcast. We used to ask it quite often, which is, if you're poor between the ages of 25 and 45, do you think that it's your own fault?
You better find a different career path, and you better harness, whatever your talents are, and you better run at those talents, as hard as humanly possible. And listen, there's a lot of people who have advantages, right, in the world. There's a lot of people that have opportunities, and there's a lot of people who were given nothing, who became the wealthiest people in the history of this nation out of nothing. I mean, I know so many of them, right? Didn't graduate high school and built billion-dollar companies, and have done tremendously well. And so, I think if you're ever in that spot where you're bored as hell, and you're not moving forward, you should probably pull the ejection seat and get out and find something that you love or you're passionate about, something that has high growth, something that you're able to monetize. And I would sprint toward whatever that might be in your life. And what that is for you is probably very different than it is for me, and it's probably very different than it is for you, right? It's I think people have to harness their skills. Skills come in 1,000 different forms, and ultimately monetize them. If you're not passionate about something and you really are working, 3 hours a day and, don't give a damn about whatever you're doing, you're not going to break out from the pack. It's very hard. Statistics will show you that it's going to be next to impossible for you to, overachieve.
What separates the people, though, that are not self-motivated with those who are?
Listen, maybe it's attitude. I would hope, and maybe the utopian view would be that, everybody could self-motivate if they found the right thing that motivated them. And I would hope that'd be the case. I'm not saying that's the case. You probably have people in society who are lazy. I hate to say it. In fact, I probably know a couple of those people. And then I certainly know those people who are absolute overachievers, and everything they want to do to 110%, no matter what it is, where it is. And I think those people are probably will overachieve. As kids, we didn't have the opportunity. We didn't have the opportunity to be lazy, I should say. We were put on construction sites when we were 11 years old. If we wanted a bike, congratulations, go work for it. Go earn money. And, we were spoiled as hell in the conventional fashion. We had, a warm roof overhead. We were always fed, and we had great education. But, if anybody thought that we were rolling around with $100 bills in our pocket, we weren't. We were working on, I was doing demo all summer. And again, you wanted a fishing rod, congratulations. You used the money that you earned, you worked for, and you went and bought it.
But what was your attitude towards the work when you were young? Were you excited? Because you right now seem highly industrious, highly productive. You love what you do.
Yeah.
But back in the day, did it take a while to foster that sentiment?
Well, I loved it. I probably would have done it.
So you always loved it?
Yeah, honestly, I probably would have done it for free, right? And so back to your last question, was that built into your DNA? Was that nature? Was that nurture? I don't know. It was built into my DNA. I loved it. But it also taught me the value of dollar. It taught me the value of hard work. It certainly taught me a skill set, right, which is kind of building blocks to what I do every single day. And by the way, it tired out a young kid. If you're a 13-year-old kid or a 15-year-old kid and you're type A, do me a favor, don't give them money and don't give them a lot of free time because bad things are going to happen, right? Like, it's like a terrible recipe. And so my parents were exceptional. Were exceptional when it came to that.
We asked Dave Ramsey the same question, and he said the reason a lot of people aren't motivated or they feel hopeless is that they believe that the work they put in is not going to have the result that they want.
Yeah.
And I think for you could very well see that if I do this, this is what's possible.
Yeah.
And you
There's
see the reward
faith,
of that.
There's light at the end of the tunnel.
Sure.
I think a lot of people in America feel like they're hopeless,
Yeah.
that they can't get ahead, that they feel like housing is too expensive, or the stock market's overvalued, or that crypto, they could have gotten in at $1,000 and now it's $110,000. I feel like they can't do anything to get by. What would you say to those people?
Yeah, well, I think you have to find the industry that you're good at, and I think you have to find the job that you're passionate about, and I think you have to find the opportunity, whether self-employment or not. I mean, I can't tell you how many friends I have who started small electrical companies. They were electrical foremen, and they worked their way up, and then they went out and they started doing their own jobs, and all of a sudden they're running 30, 40, 50 crews with unbelievable companies, and they built it from nothing. And it's hard to get there. It's really hard to get there, but I think you have to take the initial step. I think I agree with Dave, but what you have to do is you have to take the initial step toward whatever that is that you're ultimately passionate about. So oftentimes it's, well, the market's not right, so I can't do it right now, or life's not right, or, it's a hard time, or this or that. You have to take the step. You have to be able to take that initial leap. And I encourage people to do that, follow their hearts, follow their passions, preferably in an industry, that has growth or that has, real kind of potential.
If you've ever been denied a car loan, credit card, or even an apartment because of what's on your credit report, you are not alone. Most people don't even know what's hurting their credit score, let alone how to fix it. That is exactly where our sponsor DisputeBeast comes in. It's an AI-powered platform that helps you find and remove outdated or inaccurate items from your credit report fast.
We're talking things like late payments, old accounts and collections, or even accounts that don't belong to you. Not to mention, how it works is super easy. You connect your credit report and DisputeBeast scans it for negative marks that could be dragging down your score. Then it generates custom dispute letters tailored for your situation, no templates and no guesswork.
You could choose to just download the data and send it to the agencies yourself, or you can use their built-in mail service where they will literally handle everything for you.
It's honestly just really clean and simple to use, and it's built by experts.
So if you're ready to take back control of your credit, go to DisputeBeast.com/ICH today. There's also a link down below in the description, DisputeBeast.com/ICH. Guys, they will literally handle everything for you. If you're dissatisfied with your credit, they will do all of the research, let you know what's going wrong, and they will fight for you. DisputeBeast.com/ICH. Thank you so much to DisputeBeast for sponsoring this clip.